December 12, 2025. 3:25 p.m. Lower East Side, Manhattan. Police respond to a wellness check at a Clinton Street apartment. Neighbors had heard Christmas music, loud, relentless, playing for 3 straight days. When officers enter, they find Peter Greene, 60 years old, lying face down on the floor. Blood. A facial injury. And next to him, a handwritten note, "I'm still a Westie." The music is still playing. Peter Greene, the actor who played Zed in Pulp Fiction, Dorian in The Mask, the villain everyone remembered but few knew, is dead. But the questions begin immediately. Why did the music play for 72 hours without stopping? What does "I'm still a Westie" mean? And why did nobody check on him sooner, even as the sound of Christmas carols blared through thin apartment walls day after day, night after night? Peter Greene was born October 8, 1965, in Montclair, New Jersey, one of 3 siblings. His childhood was turbulent. At 15, he ran away from home. 4 years he was homeless, surviving on New York City streets, learning lessons that would later inform every villain he'd ever play. He didn't start acting until his 20s, a late bloomer in an industry that usually chews up and spits out anyone who doesn't make it young. His first screen role came in 1990, an episode of the short-lived crime drama Hardball. In 1992, he landed his film debut in Laws of Gravity opposite Edie Falco. But 1994 was the year that changed everything. 2 films. 2 iconic villains. In The Mask, he played Dorian Tyrell, the mobster antagonist opposite Jim Carrey's cartoonish hero. Greene brought menace and charm in equal measure, his angular face and intense eyes making him unforgettable. Then came Pulp Fiction. As Zed, the sadistic pawnshop security guard, Greene had maybe 10 minutes of screen time. But those 10 minutes, dark, disturbing, burned into cinema history, ensured Peter Greene would never be forgotten. The work kept coming. The Usual Suspects in 1995, where he played Redfoot, the fence who sets the plot in motion. In one memorable scene, he flicks a cigarette at Stephen Baldwin. It was supposed to hit Baldwin's chest but hit his face instead. Director Bryan Singer kept the take. That was Greene. Unpredictable, intense, impossible to ignore. He appeared in Under Siege 2, Blue Streak, Training Day opposite Denzel Washington. He worked steadily for 3 decades, racking up nearly 100 credits across film and television. But Peter Greene's life off-screen was as dark as the characters he played. He struggled with heroin and cocaine addiction throughout the 1990s and 2000s. In 2007, he was arrested for crack cocaine possession. Friends described him as brilliant but difficult, a perfectionist who believed in improvisation, who wanted every scene perfect, who frustrated directors and mesmerized audiences. By the 2020s, he'd been sober for a couple years, according to his manager Greg Edwards. He'd beaten his demons, or so it seemed. Greene never achieved leading man status, but he didn't need to. Character actors like him are cinema's backbone, the faces you recognize instantly even if you can't remember their names. He played villains with humanity, made bad guys compelling, reminded audiences that evil is rarely one-dimensional. His manager called him, arguably, one of the greatest character actors on the planet. Those who worked with him, Tarantino, Singer, Antoine Fuqua, knew he elevated every project he touched. By 2025, Peter was living alone in a Lower East Side apartment, still working. He had a role lined up in Mickey Rourke's upcoming thriller Mascots, set to shoot in 2026. He was co-producing and narrating a documentary called From the American People, The Withdrawal of USAID, alongside Jason Alexander and Kathleen Turner. He had surgery scheduled for mid-December, a benign lung tumor that needed removal. His manager said he was nervous but optimistic. They'd spoken on December 10th. Greene sounded fine. Normal. Just another conversation about work, about recovery, about the future. December 2025 found Peter Greene in his Clinton Street apartment preparing for the holidays and the surgery. According to his manager, the lung tumor was benign, not life-threatening but requiring surgical removal. Greene was anxious about going under the knife, but doctors assured him it was routine. He was otherwise healthy, fit for 60, riding his bike around Manhattan, staying active. Friends and neighbors knew him as a private man, a little eccentric, prone to conspiracy theories according to those close to him. The Lower East Side suited him, gritty, authentic, far from Hollywood's gloss. He'd lived there for years, part of the neighborhood fabric without seeking attention. On December 10th, he spoke with his manager for the last time. Greg Edwards later told press, "He sounded okay. It was just a totally normal conversation." They discussed the upcoming surgery, upcoming projects, mundane details of life and work. Nothing suggested urgency or distress. They wished each other well. The call ended normally. Sometime in the days that followed, Peter Greene started playing Christmas music. But neighbors in his building, thin walls, close quarters, heard it. The music never stopped. 24 hours. 48 hours. Carols on loop, volume high enough to penetrate walls but not so loud anyone felt compelled to complain immediately. It was December after all. Holiday music was normal. Maybe he was celebrating. Maybe he just liked it loud. But 72 hours is different. By Friday, December 12th, neighbors were concerned. The music hadn't stopped once. No breaks. No silence. Just Christmas songs, over and over, while the man inside his apartment lay dead on the floor. The exact time of Peter Greene's death remains undetermined. The medical examiner has not publicly released those details. But based on the timeline, neighbors hearing music starting Wednesday, investigators believe he died sometime between December 11th and 12th. The Christmas music played on after he fell, an automated playlist or radio station continuing long after the man who'd started it could hear it anymore. Friday afternoon, December 12th, a neighbor finally acted. The music was still blaring. They knocked on Greene's door. No answer. They knocked again. Nothing. Concern turned to alarm. They contacted building management, who contacted police. At 3:25 p.m., NYPD officers arrived for a wellness check. They entered the ground floor apartment. The music was loud, filling the space. Peter Greene was on the floor, face down. There was a facial injury. Blood. Officers immediately called for emergency medical services, but it was too late. Greene was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation began immediately. Police found the handwritten note, "I'm still a Westie." For those unfamiliar with New York gang history, the Westies were a notorious Irish-American organized crime gang that operated in Hell's Kitchen during the 1960s to 1980s. By the time Greene wrote that note, the Westies were long defunct, a relic of a bygone era. But the reference suggested Greene identified with that rough, rebellious past, perhaps connecting his own homeless youth in New York to the mythology of street gangs he might have admired or encountered. Police found no evidence of foul play. The apartment showed no signs of struggle or forced entry. The injuries Greene sustained appeared consistent with a fall. The official statement, "No foul play suspected." But the cause of death, medical emergency, accident, something else, remained undetermined pending autopsy and toxicology reports. News of Peter Greene's death broke on December 13th. His manager Greg Edwards confirmed it to multiple outlets. The entertainment world reacted with shock. Mickey Rourke posted a close-up photo of Greene on Instagram with only a prayer emoji, no words necessary for those who knew Greene's intensity. Tributes flooded social media from fans who'd grown up watching him play villains, from actors who'd worked with him, from directors who'd trusted him with their darkest characters. The New York Daily News was first to report details: the Christmas music, the note, the bloodied scene. Other outlets followed, each adding pieces to a puzzle that still doesn't quite fit together. Why the music? Was it intentional, a soundtrack for his final hours? Or coincidental, simply playing when something went wrong? And "I'm still a Westie," was it a final statement of identity, a reference to his rough past, or something else entirely? The medical examiner's office took custody of Greene's body. Autopsy results and toxicology reports can take weeks or months. Until then, the official cause of death remains undetermined. His manager revealed Greene had been sober for at least 2 years, suggesting the drug addiction that plagued him in the 1990s was behind him. The scheduled surgery for the lung tumor was days away, too close for him to have died from the tumor itself. Peter Greene's family, a brother and sister, were notified. They've remained private, releasing no public statements. His manager said Greene had a son, though details about his personal life were scarce. Greene guarded his privacy fiercely, even in death keeping his inner life shielded from public scrutiny. The acting community mourned a character actor's character actor. Quentin Tarantino hasn't commented publicly, but those who worked with Greene shared memories of his intensity, his perfectionism, his ability to make even brief scenes unforgettable. In Pulp Fiction, Zed has minimal dialogue, but Greene's presence, dead-eyed, menacing, radiating casual cruelty, made the character iconic. In The Mask, Dorian could have been a cartoonish gangster, but Greene played him straight, grounding Jim Carrey's slapstick chaos with genuine threat. His career spanned from 1990 to 2025, 35 years of steady work, nearly 100 roles, a face audiences knew even if they couldn't name. He never won major awards, never headlined blockbusters, never became a household name. But cinema needs actors like Peter Greene, the unforgettable faces in supporting roles, the actors who make villains compelling, who elevate projects through sheer commitment to craft. The question of what happened in that Clinton Street apartment on December 11th or May 12th never be fully answered. The Christmas music that played for 72 hours, the note about being a Westie, the fall that caused the injuries, these details create a narrative that feels incomplete, mysterious, unsettling in ways that suit the man who spent decades playing unsettling characters. Peter Greene died alone in a Lower East Side apartment while Christmas music played on repeat, a handwritten note, his final message to a world that remembered him best as cinema's most memorable villains. He was 60 years old, still working, still fighting, still, in his own words, a Westie. Some stories end. Legends don't. This is CLS.